A calm morning at a joint human-alien research outpost located on the far side of a quiet moon. The outpost is a place where both species work together to study strange creatures, advanced machines, and unique planets. Most people find the environment exciting, but the human mechanic at the center of this story prefers staying away from attention. He likes working with machines, tools, and engines more than being around crowds. He is quiet, careful, and usually keeps his thoughts to himself. That day, he walks into the hangar carrying a small toolbox. The hangar is huge, with metal platforms, tall support beams, and a row of half-repaired exploration pods. The air smells of warm wires and machine oil. He likes the smell because it reminds him of home simple work, simple tasks, and no complicated drama. He chooses a damaged exploration pod that needs a full checkup. Its left wing is bent, wires are hanging loose, and one of the energy panels is blinking weakly. The mechanic rolls up his sleeves and gets to work. He enjoys the calmness. The only sounds are the soft hum of machines, distant footsteps, and his tools clicking against metal. He lifts a panel, checks the wires, and starts taking notes on what needs to be replaced. As always, he talks quietly to the machine while working, not because he believes it can hear him, but because it makes him feel focused. "Don't worry," he whispers. "I'll fix this. Just give me a moment." Some alien engineers are working on another pod in the far corner. They are tall, graceful, and known for their precise movements. They often find humans unpredictable, but they respect the mechanic for his patience. They whisper among themselves about routine repairs, unaware of the strange event about to unfold. The mechanic bends over the open panel to reconnect a loose wire. Suddenly, he hears a faint but unusual sound behind him. It is not the sound of tools or machines. It is a deep, low vibration, almost like distant thunder rolling through a metal tunnel. He pauses and straightens his back slowly. He thinks maybe a large engine has been started nearby, but the sound feels too alive for that dot. He turns his head slightly, expecting an officer or a supervisor, but instead he sees shadows stretching across the floor. At first, he thinks maybe some large cargo is being moved, but the moment he fully turns around, his breath catches. Standing at the entrance of the hangar is a massive creature, an alien, dragon predator known across galaxies for being impossible to tame. The creature is tall enough to brush against the ceiling lights. Its scales are dark, almost shimmering, and its eyes glow softly like warm lanterns. Its claws are long, but they are pressing gently against the metal floor instead of digging into it. The creature watches the mechanic without blinking. The mechanic freezes. His mind races, but his body stays still. He doesn't reach for anything. He doesn't run. He simply stands there, trying to understand what is happening. The alien engineers in the corner notice the sudden silence and follow his gaze. When they see the creature, they panic silently. Their eyes widen, and one of them drops a tool. None of them dare to move or even breathe loudly. Everyone expects the creature to behave like the story's wild, unpredictable, and dangerous. That is what the galaxy believes about this species. But the creature does something no one expects. It steps forward slowly. The floor trembles softly under its weight. But the movement is not threatening. Its head lowers slightly. Its wings fold close to its sides, and it makes a soft, rumbling sound that almost resembles a purr. The mechanic feels confused, but something inside him, maybe instinct or just calm habit, tells him not to panic. He takes one slow breath. Then another. The dragon stops 2 steps away from him. It lowers its head further, bringing its glowing eyes level with his. The mechanic stares into those eyes, and instead of fear, he sees something strange: curiosity, maybe recognition, or something like gentle expectation. No one moves. No one speaks. The entire hangar becomes silent, as if holding its breath. The mechanic slowly raises his hand. He doesn't know why he does it. Maybe he just wants to show that he means no harm. His hand stops just a few inches from the creature's nose. And then, the unbelievable happens. The giant creature leans forward and gently presses its snout against his palm. A soft, warm breath spreads across his skin. The mechanic feels a strange mix of surprise and calmness. He has never touched such a creature before. He gently moves his hand, and the dragon closes its eyes briefly, almost like enjoying the contact. The alien engineers in the corner cannot believe what they're seeing. They look at each other, shaking their heads in disbelief. The mechanic takes a step back, expecting the creature to move away, but instead, the dragon follows the step instantly. This time, it sits down beside him. The whole platform shakes from the weight, but the creature keeps its posture gentle, almost respectful. Its tail curls slightly around him, not touching him, but forming a kind of circle of protection. Workers from other rooms begin arriving, hearing whispers about something strange happening in the hangar. When they peek inside and see the dragon sitting calmly beside a human, they freeze at the entrance. Some whisper, some take small steps backward, and others stand speechless with wide eyes. The mechanic still has no idea why this is happening. He looks down at the dragon and speaks softly, the same way he talks to machines. "What are you doing here?" he asks. The dragon makes a soft chuffing sound, like answering. One brave alien researcher approaches slowly from behind a metal crate. "It should not be doing this," the researcher whispers shakily. "These creatures do not follow commands. They do not form bonds. They do not respond gently to anyone." The mechanic simply shrugs. "I didn't do anything," he says quietly. The dragon nudges his shoulder gently, like it wants more attention. The mechanic touches its neck, and the creature leans into his hand again, confirming everyone's fears and amazement at the same time. This is not an accident. The dragon has chosen him. The news spreads through the outpost at incredible speed. Workers send messages to supervisors. Supervisors send messages to higher authorities. And soon the entire command center is buzzing with reports. Everyone wants to know the same thing. How did a creature known for being untamable suddenly behave like a calm companion around a human who never trained it? The mechanic finishes his work for the day because he doesn't want to leave the job undone. Surprisingly, the dragon follows him everywhere, walking behind him like a very large, very loyal pet. Whenever he stops to check a tool or tighten a bolt, the creature sits down patiently, waiting for him. Whenever he moves to another pod, the dragon walks beside him. People keep their distance. No one tries to interfere. Some observe from behind machines. Others watch from the upper platform balconies. A few record quietly for research purposes, but everyone stays cautious. The mechanic tries to ignore the attention, but it is impossible. He has never been the center of anything, and suddenly the entire outpost is watching him. He tries to continue his work as naturally as possible. "I don't know why you're following me," he whispers to the dragon while tightening a bolt. "But if you're going to stay, don't block the light." The dragon shifts slightly to allow more light through. That small movement shocks the observers even more. It means the creature is paying attention, responding, and adjusting its behavior based on his voice. The mechanic feels a strange wave of calmness settle over him. The creature doesn't feel dangerous. In fact, there is something almost comforting about its presence, like a silent companion who understands what he needs. By the end of the day, supervisors and researchers gather near the hangar entrance. They are nervous but fascinated. One of them steps forward and tells the mechanic that a message has been sent to the Empress of the alien empire. She will personally travel to the outpost to witness this impossible bond. The mechanic sighs quietly, not because he fears the Empress, but because he knows this means attention, questions, and long hours of explaining things he himself doesn't understand. He looks at the dragon beside him. The creature gently nudges his arm again, like offering comfort. He pats its neck softly. "Looks like tomorrow will be a busy day," he whispers. The dragon rumbles softly, almost like agreeing. And that is how the first and most unexpected day ends. An ordinary human mechanic standing beside a creature no one has ever tamed, and an entire outpost waiting breathlessly to see what happens next. The next morning at the outpost feels very different from the usual routine. Normally, the halls are filled with quiet chatter, footsteps, and the soft hum of machines powering up for the day. But today, everything is strangely quiet. People walk slowly, whispering, stealing glances toward the hangar, as if something unbelievable is happening inside. And it is. The dragon had stayed close to the mechanic the entire night. It didn't break anything, didn't roar, didn't cause any trouble. Instead, it simply lay down outside the workshop where the mechanic slept, curling its body like a giant guardian. The security cameras captured everything, showing how the creature would lift its head every time someone walked by, only to relax again when it realized the mechanic was safe. This kind of behavior was unheard of. These creatures were known throughout the Empire as unpredictable. Many alien researchers had spent years trying to study them, but none dared to stand too close. And now one of those creatures was resting calmly like a loyal companion. When the mechanic wakes up, he opens his workshop door and stops instantly. The dragon is lying there, looking at him with glowing eyes that brighten just a little when it sees him. The mechanic rubs his forehead and sighs softly. He is not used to attention, especially not from a creature that dwarfs every machine in the hangar. "Good morning," he mutters, even though he knows the creature probably doesn't understand the words. But the dragon gives a soft rumble, almost like answering. People nearby watch the moment carefully. Some record it for research purposes. Others watch simply because they cannot believe their eyes. The mechanic tries to ignore them and walks toward the hangar. As always, the dragon follows right behind him. Its huge steps shake the floor slightly, but the movement feels steady and calm. Word spreads fast across the outpost. Empress will arrive within a few hours. Everyone is nervous. The Empress is known for being strict, focused, and highly respected. She is not the kind of leader who travels often, especially not for small matters. The fact that she is coming all the way to this remote outpost says everything. This situation is important. Workers rush around preparing the landing platform. Engineers clean walkways and polish metal floors. Guards take their positions, checking scanners and communication devices. Researchers gather notes, hoping they won't make mistakes when asked questions. Meanwhile, the mechanic continues his work like any other day. He walks back into the hangar and kneels beside the exploration pod he didn't finish repairing yesterday. He opens his toolbox and starts tightening bolts. The dragon settles down beside him, folding its wings neatly and lowering its head close to him like it wants to observe. The mechanic glances at it. "You know," he whispers, "you being here makes everyone nervous." The dragon only blinks, unimpressed by its effect on the outpost. The mechanic tries not to laugh. "You don't care, do you?" Again, the creature gives a soft chuff, almost like a relaxed sigh. Researchers gather at a safe distance, using holographic scanners to record the creature's movements. They whisper excitedly about everything from the way the dragon seems to mimic the mechanic's calmness to how it responds to every slight gesture he makes. One researcher accidentally sneezes, and the dragon lifts its head immediately, staring until it sees the mechanic wave a small hand to show everything is fine. Then it relaxes again. At one point, the mechanic needs a heavy panel moved. Normally, he would call for help, but before he even finishes reaching for the radio, the dragon extends a claw gently and pushes the panel into the correct position. The mechanic stops, surprised. "Thank you," he says without thinking. The dragon gives a soft rumble of approval, as if pleased with itself. People watching from the upper platform gasp quietly. They have never seen anything like this. The mechanic feels a little embarrassed. He didn't ask for a giant creature helper, but it seems he has one now. Time passes quickly. Soon, the deep hum of an approaching Imperial shuttle echoes through the outpost. People straighten their uniforms, stand in position, and prepare to greet their ruler. Even the dragon lifts its head, sensing something different in the air. The mechanic stands quietly to the side, unsure what the protocol is. No one tells him where to go, because no one knows how to handle a human who has a dragon sitting beside him. The shuttle lands gracefully. Its silver wings fold in, and a smooth walkway extends. Guards in ceremonial armor take their positions, forming two lines. Then the Empress steps out. She is tall, calm, and carries an air of confidence that fills the entire platform. Her presence is quiet but powerful. She looks around, scanning the faces of her people. Then her eyes fall on the sight everyone has been waiting for her to see. A human mechanic standing beside a creature her empire never succeeded in taming. The Empress walks forward slowly. Everyone bows. The mechanic awkwardly bends a little too, unsure how deeply he is supposed to bow. The dragon watches her approach, not aggressively, but carefully. The Empress notices this and pauses at a respectful distance. "So," she says softly, "this is the creature causing so much discussion." Her voice is calm but filled with curiosity. The mechanic nods once. "Yes, it showed up yesterday." "And it has followed you ever since?" "Yes." "Are you a trained handler?" she asks. "No," the mechanic says honestly. "I just fix machines?" The Empress looks from him to the dragon. The creature tilts its head and gives a soft sound like greeting her, but stays close to the mechanic, almost protectively. The Empress gestures for her advisors to stay back. She walks a little closer, trying not to startle the creature. The dragon watches her, but does not move. Instead, it lowers its head slightly, as if acknowledging her authority. The mechanic notices this and quietly wonders how he ended up in the middle of something so unusual that one of the alien advisors whispers, "Your Majesty, no creature of this species has ever behaved this peacefully." The Empress nods, but keeps her eyes on the mechanic. "Tell me exactly what you did when you first saw it." "I didn't do anything," he replies. "I just stayed calm and waited. It came to me on its own." "And you touched it?" "Yes, without fear." "I didn't have time to think about fear," he admits. The Empress studies him for a long moment, as if trying to understand something invisible. Finally, she turns toward the dragon. "May I approach?" she asks. Everyone holds their breath, including the guards. The mechanic looks at the creature and speaks softly. "It's okay. She's not here to harm you." The dragon blinks slowly and relaxes slightly, as if understanding his tone more than his words. The Empress takes a careful step forward. The creature remains calm. She stands close enough to see the texture of its shimmering scales. "Incredible," she whispers. She reaches out slowly. But before touching the creature, she hesitates and glances at the mechanic, silently asking if it is safe. The mechanic nods. The Empress places her hand gently on the dragon's neck. Everyone around watches in disbelief. The advisors whisper excitedly. The guards tighten their grips on their staffs, unsure whether to feel relieved or confused. The creature accepts the touch, but does not respond with affection the way it does with the mechanic. It stays neutral, respectful, but reserved. That difference is noticed by everyone. After a few moments, the Empress steps back. "This bond," she says softly, "is not normal. This is something rare." The mechanic doesn't reply. He doesn't know what she means, and he doesn't want to pretend. The Empress turns to her advisors. "Prepare a full observation session. I want to see how the creature reacts to the human in different environments. Then she looks back at the mechanic. You will assist us. The mechanic sighs quietly. He has never worked with anyone important before, let alone an empress. But he nods. The dragon nudges his arm again, sensing his unease. The mechanic pats its side gently. It's fine, he whispers. Let's just do what they ask. The creature settles beside him again, showing everyone that its loyalty is not temporary. It is real. As the Empress returns to her shuttle to prepare for the next steps. The mechanic sits down on a small metal crate, trying to gather his thoughts. He never wanted attention. He never wanted to be part of some historic event. He simply wanted to fix machines quietly. But now, his life has changed completely. A creature feared by entire civilizations has chosen him, and an empress wants to understand why. The mechanic looks at the dragon beside him and shakes his head with a small smile. I don't know why you chose me, he whispers. But I guess we're in this together now. The dragon gives a soft, warm rumble. And for the first time, the mechanic feels that maybe this unexpected bond is not a burden. It might be something meaningful. A few hours after the Empress's first visit to the hangar, the outpost feels more alive than usual. People move quickly from one room to another, carrying scanners, notebooks, and recording devices. They speak in low voices as they prepare the main research arena for observations. Everyone wants to understand the strange bond between the human mechanic and the alien dragon, but no one wants to make a mistake. The creature may look calm, but it is still a being that most people fear. The mechanic stands near a wall, watching everyone hurry by. He feels uncomfortable with all the attention. He never imagined a simple day of repairing machines would turn into something that pulls the entire empire's interest. A dragon sits beside him, its body curled like a giant shield. Whenever someone walks too close, the creature lifts its head and tilts it slightly, making the person freeze in place. The mechanic sighs and gently taps the dragon's side. Relax, they're just doing their work. The dragon lowers its head again, trusting his voice more than anything else. After some minutes, a researcher approaches carefully and tells the mechanic that the Empress wants him in the main training arena. The mechanic nods and begins walking. The dragon follows him immediately, its long tail brushing lightly across the metal floor. People step aside quickly, clearing a wide path. Some whisper in amazement as the huge creature walks so calmly, matching the mechanic's pace perfectly. When they reach the arena, the mechanic stops at the entrance. The place is enormous, like an indoor valley made of metal and glass. The ceiling stretches high above, with bright lights arranged in curved rows. The ground is covered with smooth plates, allowing even large creatures to move easily. Observation rooms with thick windows circle the upper levels, where researchers and guards watch from behind protective glass. The Empress stands at the center, her hands clasped behind her back as she waits. When the mechanic enters the dragon close behind, she turns toward them. Her expression is calm, but a spark of curiosity shows in her eyes. Thank you for coming, she says softly. The mechanic nods. He doesn't know what else to say. He isn't used to talking around important people. He isn't even used to talking much at all. The Empress gestures toward the open area. We want to observe how the creature behaves around you in a controlled environment. You do not need to do anything special, just act naturally. The mechanic glances at the dragon. That's all I can do, he says quietly. He steps into the center of the arena, and the dragon follows. The lights dim slightly, and the observation windows brighten as the researchers prepare to record everything. The mechanic kneels beside the dragon and touches its neck gently. It's okay, he whispers. Just stay calm. The creature gives a soft rumble, almost like a purr. The Empress raises a brow slightly, impressed by the gentle response. The first part of the test is simple. The mechanic walks around the arena while the researchers observe how closely the dragon follows him. As expected, the creature stays right behind him, matching every step with perfect timing. When the mechanic stops, the dragon stops. When he crouches, the dragon lowers its head too. When he picks up a small piece of metal from the ground, the dragon leans in as if trying to understand what he's doing. Everything about the creature's movements shows interest, not aggression. The observers begin murmuring excitedly, taking notes and discussing theories. The Empress watches silently, her eyes following every detail. After a while, the mechanic sits down on the smooth floor. The dragon immediately lowers its body beside him, resting its large head gently near his legs. The mechanic laughs softly, surprised by how much like a companion the creature behaves. "You're acting like you've known me for years," he whispers to it. The dragon's eyes blink slowly. As if agreeing, the Empress walks forward, keeping a respectful distance. "May I ask you something?" she says. The mechanic looks up at her. "Of course." "When you look at it, what do you feel? Fear? Pressure? Confusion?" He thinks for a moment. "I feel calm, actually," he answers honestly. "I don't know why. It just feels like it understands me somehow." The Empress studies him carefully. "And you have never trained any creatures before?" "No," he replies. "I only fix machines." The Empress breathes out slowly. Machines respond to patience, steady hands, and gentle adjustments. Perhaps this creature senses those qualities. The mechanic shrugs. "Maybe. I just treat everything the same way, slow, steady, no rush." Before the Empress can respond, one of the researchers activates a moving platform on the far side of the arena. A small robotic drone hovers a few feet above the ground and moves in a slow circle. The dragon lifts its head quickly, eyes narrowing with interest. The mechanic senses the shift and gently places his hand on the creature's neck. "It's okay," he murmurs. "It's just a machine." The dragon watches the drone closely, muscles tense for a moment. Then, feeling the mechanic's calmness, it relaxes and lowers its head again. The Empress looks up at the observation window where the researcher stands. "Increase the speed," she commands. The drone moves faster, circling the arena in wide loops. The dragon's eyes follow every motion, but it stays beside the mechanic, never stepping away from him. When the drone comes close, the dragon wraps its wings slightly around the mechanic, like shielding him. The mechanic presses his hand against its scales. "I'm fine," he says. "You don't need to protect me from that." Slowly, the dragon moves its wing back. Listening to his tone, the researchers whisper excitedly again, amazed at how the creature responds to voice alone. Next, the Empress orders a series of soft sound pulses to play from hidden speakers around the arena. The tones echo faintly, testing how sensitive the dragon is to noise. The dragon lifts its head, ears twitching, but it doesn't panic or roar. It simply moves closer to the mechanic, staying in a position that allows it to watch both him and the surroundings. The mechanic notices the creature's concern and gently taps its side. "Nothing's going to happen," he reassures it. Again, the dragon relaxes. After observing for some time, the Empress motions for the arena doors to open so new equipment can be brought in. A small transport cart enters, carrying crates of tools and parts. The mechanic recognizes some of the items inside: extra clamps, scanning rods, coils, and a few spare components he often uses in repairs. He walks toward the cart, curious. The dragon follows, but stops when it sees the workers nearby. It lowers its head and watches cautiously, not sure if the strangers are friendly or not. The mechanic notices this and waves to the workers, showing the creature that everything is fine. "It's okay," he tells the dragon. "They're not here to hurt anyone." The dragon relaxes again, closing the space between them. One of the workers accidentally drops a metal wrench. The loud clatter echoes across the arena. Many people flinch not because they fear the noise, but because they expect the creature to react badly. Instead, the dragon only lifts its head and looks at the mechanic for guidance. The mechanic gives a small smile. Just a noise. Don't worry. The dragon calms down immediately. The Empress watches this with fascination. It responds to you more than any trained creature I've ever seen, she says. It is reading your emotions, copying your reactions. The mechanic shrugs. I guess it just trusts me. And why do you think that is? She asks gently. The mechanic thinks for a moment. Maybe because I didn't try to control it. I didn't shout or show fear. I just stood there and let it make the first move. The Empress nods slowly. Sometimes the quietest approach creates the strongest bond. The testing continues for over an hour. Each time something changes, lights dim, machines move, sounds echo, the dragon looks to the mechanic first before reacting. And every time the mechanic stays calm, the creature stays calm too. Eventually, the Empress gives the signal to end the session. The lights brighten, the drones shut down, and the arena returns to its normal state. The mechanic sits on the floor again, feeling a bit tired from all the attention. The dragon lies beside him, placing its huge head gently on the ground near his feet. The Empress approaches once more, her expression softer than earlier. What we witnessed today, she says quietly, is something rare. Your bond is not an accident. It is something natural, and something worth understanding. The mechanic doesn't know what to say. He just nods. The Empress continues. Tomorrow, we will observe you in a different environment. For now, take some time to rest. You have done more than enough. The mechanic stands up slowly. The dragon rises too, stretching its wings before folding them neatly again. As they walk toward the exit together, the Empress watches them carefully, deep in thought. People move aside as the pair leave the arena. Whispered conversations follow them down the corridor, but the mechanic tries to ignore everything. He only feels the gentle sound of the dragon's footsteps behind him. Steady and reassuring when they reach the hangar. The dragon settles down beside his workshop again. Waiting for him like always, the mechanic sits on a crate, lets out a long breath, and says softly, I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but I guess we'll face it together. The dragon gives a warm rumble of agreement, and in that simple, quiet moment, the unusual bond becomes even stronger. The news of the mechanic and the gentle giant dragon spread across the Empress's royal fleet like a quiet storm. No one understood how or why an apex creature, something known for its wild strength and instinctive independence, had chosen to follow an ordinary human. And even though the Empress pretended she wasn't thinking about it too much, the truth was that she couldn't stop thinking about it at all. She wanted answers. She wanted clarity, and, in a strange way, she also wanted to simply see the mechanic and the dragon again. So, when the royal ships reached a small service station on the edge of a bright blue nebula, the Empress decided to step off her flagship and walk through the floating docks herself. Her guards tried to follow her, but she waved them away. She wasn't in danger. She only wanted to observe. But the moment she entered the station's main corridor, she heard something that forced her to pause. A loud thump. A second thump. A low, rumbling breath. The dragon was nearby. The mechanic was nearby too. She could hear his voice. Calm and steady, as if he was speaking to an old friend and not a creature the size of a shuttle. The Empress walked slowly toward the sound until she reached an open space near one of the maintenance hangars. And there she saw it once again. The giant alien dragon sitting peacefully on the floor, its wings folded neatly behind it, its golden eyes following every tiny movement the mechanic made. The mechanic was kneeling beside it, checking a small wound on the dragon's scale. Nothing dangerous. Just a scratch that must have come from brushing against an engine panel earlier. The Empress stood there silently, watching the scene unfold. What struck her most was not the bond between the human and the dragon. It was the softness in the dragon's expression, something she had never seen in these creatures before. In fact, most empresses before her had used dragons only for war displays or royal training. They had never treated them like living beings with feelings and comfort and trust. But this dragon leaned into the human's touch with a slow, careful acceptance, almost like a shy animal trying to show affection without overwhelming its friend. And the mechanic unknowingly returned that trust with quiet patience. He didn't speak loudly, he didn't rush, and he didn't show fear. He simply acted like the dragon was a normal creature that deserved kindness. The Empress finally stepped forward. The mechanic turned his head in surprise, unsure if he had done something wrong. "Don't stop," the Empress said gently. "I'm only observing." The dragon looked at her, not aggressively, not confused, just watchful. The mechanic nodded and continued tending to the small injury. The Empress, unable to resist, slowly walked nearer until she stood only a few steps away. She didn't raise her hands or move quickly. She understood that sudden motions might startle the creature. "Has it been following you since yesterday?" she asked quietly. The mechanic smiled nervously. "Pretty much. I think it likes staying close. Maybe it feels safe around me." The Empress frowned slightly. "Safe? With you?" He nodded again. "Maybe it's not just about strength. Maybe it's about trust." The Empress held on to that sentence in her mind, like a stone sinking into calm water. Trust, she had ruled entire star systems, but had never once considered the idea that dragons could trust someone the way humans trusted each other. "May I?" she asked, lifting her hand just a little toward the dragon. The mechanic glanced at the creature. "If it doesn't move away, it means it's okay." The Empress waited. The dragon sniffed the air once, then lowered its head, slightly, not submissively, but politely, almost as if giving her permission. She slowly placed her hand on the dragon's worn scale. It was surprisingly smooth, almost like polished stone, with heat pulsing underneath from the creature's inner energy. She felt the quiet vibration of the dragon's breath. It didn't flinch. It didn't growl. It simply accepted her touch. For the Empress, this moment felt strangely personal. Dragons had never allowed royalty to touch them, unless forced through strict training. But this one allowed a human, and then the Empress herself, with no resistance at all. She stepped back slowly and looked at the mechanic. "How are you managing this?" she asked softly. "You must tell me." He stood up and wiped his hands on a cloth. "Honestly, I'm not sure. Maybe it was just timing. Maybe it was injured yesterday and needed someone calm nearby. Maybe it just understood I wouldn't hurt it." The Empress looked at him carefully. He wasn't trying to claim greatness. He wasn't making himself look important. He wasn't proud or arrogant. He was simply being honest. And that honesty made everything even more confusing and impressive. They walked together toward a nearby bench, while the dragon settled itself comfortably on the floor, resting its head like a pet, waiting for its owner. The Empress glanced at the dragon and said quietly, "You know this has never happened before in our history." The mechanic shrugged. "Maybe your history just didn't try the simple things." Simple things? Kindness, patience, letting creatures approach on their own instead of forcing them. His words weren't challenging, but they were true. The Empress realized she had seen the dragons wrong her entire life. She had been told they were dangerous creatures meant for control and discipline. But now, watching this huge beast breathe calmly beside a human, she wondered how many generations had misunderstood them. The conversation drifted as they walked through the hangar. The Empress asked about the mechanic's home world, his repair work, how he learned to stay calm even while working around dangerous machines. He spoke in easy, natural words, normal things, everyday things. But each small detail revealed something bigger. He had spent his life working with damaged equipment, unstable engines, unpredictable systems. He had learned not just to understand machines, but to listen to feel when something was wrong. And in her mind, the Empress suddenly understood. A dragon, in many ways, was like a living engine with emotions. It reacted to energy, movement, tone. It trusted what felt steady and ran from what felt chaotic. She smiled a little at the thought. The dragon followed them with slow, heavy footsteps, but always kept a respectful distance close enough to stay near the mechanic, but not close enough to crowd him. Other workers in the hangar watched from afar, whispering, amazed. No one dared approach the creature without permission. But they also didn't run away. The dragon wasn't behaving like a threat. It was behaving like a loyal companion. After a long moment of silence, the Empress spoke again. "You changed something today?" she said. "More than you realize." The mechanic looked confused. "I didn't change anything. I just helped it." "That," she replied, "is the change." The Empress wasn't speaking as a ruler. She was speaking as someone who finally saw a new truth, something she hadn't understood her entire life. As they walked back to the dragon, she stopped and looked at the mechanic thoughtfully. "You know," she said, "our empire trains dragons for ceremonies, but they're never truly calm. They're always forced into obedience. Now I'm wondering if we've been doing it wrong." He didn't argue. He simply said, "Every creature deserves respect, even the ones that look dangerous." The Empress nodded, and for the first time, she felt the walls of tradition in her mind shifting, cracking, allowing new thoughts to grow. She looked at the dragon again and said softly, "Perhaps our empire has something important to learn from you." The mechanic looked surprised. "From me? I'm just a worker." "No," she said. "Not just. Sometimes the simplest person can show the greatest lesson." The dragon moved closer and rested its huge head near the mechanic's leg, closing its eyes. It trusted him. It felt safe with him. And the Empress understood that she was witnessing a bond that no royal training could ever create. She felt a mixture of awe and humility. And somewhere inside her, she felt hopeful that this unusual human and his calm heart might change not just one dragon, but the entire future of how their species treated these creatures. It was the beginning of something new, something unexpected, something that would only grow stronger. The small service station near the nebula slowly returned to its normal routine, but the atmosphere around the mechanic and the gentle dragon had completely changed. Workers no longer stared in fear. Instead, they watched with quiet curiosity every time the dragon moved or stretched its wings. People whispered to each other that something unusual, something important, was happening on this tiny dock hidden between stars. And the Empress herself had not left yet. For someone with the responsibility of ruling entire star systems, staying longer than planned was rare. But she felt there was something unfinished, something she still needed to understand. She stood inside the transparent walkway that overlooked the hangar where the dragon rested. The huge creature lay curled up peacefully like a giant cat, taking slow breaths that made its scales shine in the dim lights. The mechanic sat beside it, making small adjustments to a damaged toolbox while the dragon watched him like someone guarding a close friend. The Empress felt something she never expected to feel, a kind of quiet respect. She had grown up hearing stories that dragons were unpredictable creatures, useful only under strict control. But now she was seeing something her history books had never shown. A dragon choosing trust on its own. A dragon showing gentle loyalty without being ordered. She walked down into the hangar once again. The mechanic noticed her and immediately stood up, brushing dust from his hands. The dragon lifted its head, but remained calm. "You don't need to stand every time I arrive," the Empress said with a soft smile. "I'm not here as a ruler. I'm here as a learner." The mechanic hesitated, unsure what to say. He had never imagined someone so important would speak to him with such modesty. The Empress moved closer, but kept a respectful distance. "Has it eaten?" she asked, nodding toward the dragon. "Yes," the mechanic answered. "The workers brought some of its usual food." It seemed hungry. The dragon gave a gentle rumble, almost like agreeing. The Empress observed the creature again. It didn't seem like a beast from ancient legends. It looked almost peaceful, as if being near the mechanic gave it a sense of purpose it never had before. She sighed quietly. "It's strange," she admitted. "My researchers spent years trying to understand these creatures. They studied them, trained them, observed them, but none of them ever earned this kind of trust." The mechanic gently tapped the dragon's side. "Maybe they didn't see the creature the way it sees itself," he said. "Dragons aren't tools. They're not machines. They react to energy, to emotions, to how someone approaches them." The Empress nodded slowly. "I can see that now." The mechanic sat back down near the dragon's side, and the Empress, after a moment of hesitation, sat on the ground too. She didn't mind the dust. She just wanted to understand. For a while, no one spoke. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that made people think deeply. Then the Empress finally asked the question she'd been carrying since the first moment she saw them together. "Why do you think it chose you?" The mechanic thought for a few seconds before answering. "I don't think it's about choosing me. I think it's about choosing safety. I was near it when it was scared and unsure. I didn't shout. I didn't try to control it. I just stayed calm. Maybe that was enough." The Empress realized how rare that was. Most people in the Empire reacted to dragons with fear or authority, never calm understanding. Sometimes, the mechanic continued, creatures know more than we do. They sense energy. They sense kindness. The Empress looked at the dragon again and whispered, "And all these years, we treated them like unpredictable threats." The mechanic glanced at her. "It's never too late to change." Her expression softened. She had spent years ruling with logic and tradition. She had followed the same methods used by the rulers before her. But now she wondered how many things had been done, simply because no one tried something different. As they sat together, the dragon suddenly shifted closer slowly, deliberately, and placed its head near both of them, as if including them in its own circle of trust. The Empress felt her breath catch for a second. This wasn't just acceptance. This was connection. She reached out and gently rested her hand on the dragon's warm scale. The creature didn't move away. Instead, it made a deep, soft, content sound. The mechanic smiled. "It trusts you now." The Empress almost laughed at the simplicity of his words. "I suppose that's a rare thing." "It's rare because no one tried," the mechanic said. She looked at him and realized he wasn't trying to teach her something. He was just speaking honestly. But honesty has a strange power. Sometimes it changes the direction of entire worlds. She stood up, resting her hands. "There is something I want to ask," she said in a calmer tone. Not as a command, but as a question. The mechanic faced her attentively. "Would you be willing to visit the capital with me?" She asked. "I want the researchers and the animal specialists to learn from your experience. Not to study the dragon, but to understand your approach." The mechanic looked surprised, even overwhelmed. "Me? Why me?" "Because no one else has achieved what you have," she said simply. "And because the Empire needs change. Real change starts from simple truths. He looked at the dragon, which nudged him gently with its massive head. It was as if the creature itself was encouraging him. "I don't know if I can teach anyone," he said shyly. "I only did what felt right." "That," the Empress replied, "is exactly what we need." He hesitated for a moment, thinking about his small workshop, his quiet life, and the sudden strange direction his future was taking. He had never dreamed of stepping into the capital's grand halls or speaking to important people. But now the Empire's future, and the future of the dragons, was somehow connected to him. Finally, he nodded. "All right. If it helps the creatures, I'll come." The Empress smiled, not as a leader, but as someone relieved. "Thank you." The dragon seemed to sense the decision. It stretched its wings a little and gave a low, approving rumble, as if telling the two of them that it understood what was happening. The Empress turned to the creature. "You are welcome to come too," she said softly. "If you want." The dragon blinked slowly, almost like a sign of agreement that workers around the hangar, who had been pretending not to listen, exchanged amazed looks. The idea of a dragon traveling peacefully to the capital, not as a weapon but as a companion, was something no one had ever imagined. A few hours later, preparations began. The Empress's flagship adjusted its environment controls to comfortably fit the dragon. Engineers made sure the floors could handle its weight, and the mechanics supervised everything, checking that the creature wouldn't feel trapped or uncomfortable. When the dragon finally stepped onto the ship's boarding ramp, people held their breath, but the creature moved calmly, trusting the mechanics' guidance completely. As the ship prepared to depart, the Empress stood beside the mechanic, watching the stars through the large viewing window. "You know," she said quietly, "this moment might become part of our Empire's history." The mechanic chuckled softly. "All because one dragon decided not to fly away." "All because one human treated it kindly," the Empress corrected. The dragon lay near them, its wings folded, its eyes slowly closing as it settled down to rest. And as the ship lifted off, leaving the service station behind, something unspoken but powerful filled the space, a sense that the bond between a simple mechanic, an ancient creature, and a ruler ready to change would shape the future in ways no one expected. What began as a strange and unbelievable friendship was now becoming a path to a gentler world, a wiser empire, and a new understanding between species. And it all started with kindness, a simple act that changed everything.